They told him it was just old age, resulting in slow blood flow and weaker physical performance. That's normal after 60, the doctor said with a shrug. But 3 months later, he was rushed to the hospital with what seemed like a heart attack. It turned out that the problem indeed lay in his heart-blocked blood vessels. No one had warned him about this possibility before. Poor blood circulation doesn't merely affect your legs and chest. It can insidiously erode your intimacy, shatter your confidence, and sever the emotional bond with the person you love. Hi, I'm Dr. James. I've dedicated over 30 years to assisting men in regaining control of their health, revitalizing their energy, and yes, restoring their ability to be intimate. Having treated thousands of men over 60, I can assert with absolute certainty that aging itself isn't the root cause. The real issue lies in factors that no one talks about, and simple changes can reverse the situation. Most people assume baking soda is solely for cleaning or baking purposes. However, when used in the way I'm about to demonstrate, it can significantly impact blood flow, enhance artery flexibility, and boost nitric oxide levels. That's right, an item sitting in your kitchen right now could be the key to feeling younger, more energetic, and reconnected in the bedroom. Don't worry, Tom Belam. I won't inundate you with medical jargon. I'll explain in detail how it works, why it's effective, and how to use it safely. But consider this a fair warning. Using it incorrectly could have adverse effects, especially at our age. So, stay tuned, because in just a moment, I'm going to share a method that has been quietly transforming the lives of men over 60 across the country. Before we proceed further, if this kind of practical, life-changing health advice resonates with you, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss another tip designed to help you feel stronger, more connected, and in command of your health. If you found this information helpful so far, please type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0. Your feedback will help me make this content even more valuable for you. Let's start with a truth that most men over 60 have never heard from their doctors, and it's costing them more than they realize. The gradual decline in blood flow that begins in your 50s doesn't just sap your energy. It slowly chips away at your strength, dampens your mood, and diminishes your ability to feel close to your loved ones. It starts subtly: colder hands and feet, getting out of breath more easily, perhaps a decreased libido. But over time, these symptoms accumulate. If ignored, they can escalate into far more serious conditions. 1. The common problem of poor blood circulation in men over 60. I remember a man named Walter, 68 years old, retired, and married for over 40 years. He came to my office neither for a heart problem nor intimacy concerns. Instead, he simply said, "Doc, I don't feel like myself anymore." His hands were cold even during summer, and he was falling asleep earlier each evening. Although he didn't mention it directly at first, I could sense he was carrying a heavy burden, a sense of loss he couldn't articulate. When we talked more, he admitted that intimacy had become rare, awkward, and sometimes even emotionally painful. He felt as if he was gradually losing his identity. What Walter experienced is far more common than most people think. In fact, it's one of the most widespread yet overlooked issues among men over 60. And it all stems from blood flow. As we age, the inner walls of our blood vessels start to stiffen, arteries lose their flexibility, blood flow becomes restricted, and the smaller vessels, which are crucial for keeping us warm, energized, and responsive, begin to constrict like old, rusty pipes. This deterioration doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in gradually, sapping our vitality bit by bit, until we attribute it solely to aging. But it's not just aging. It's poor circulation, and it affects not only your physical health but also your sense of self as a man, a husband, and a human being. It can leave you frustrated, isolated, and questioning whether your best days are behind you. I've witnessed men doubting themselves, questioning their self-worth, and even avoiding affection, not because they don't care, but because their bodies no longer respond as they used to, and no one has ever explained why. The good news is that this decline isn't inevitable. There are ways to improve circulation, restore the flexibility of your blood vessels, and reignite that spark you thought was lost forever. Believe it or not, one of the simplest solutions I've ever recommended might already be in your kitchen cabinet. Yes, I'm talking about baking soda, but not in the way you're familiar with from the product packaging. Let me show you how this humble household item, when used correctly, can start to reverse the very process that's been holding you back, and why the next few minutes could change your perception of your body forever. If you're still with me and this message is resonating, go ahead and type 1 in the comments. This will let me know you're listening, you care about your health, and you're ready to take the next step. Now, let's move on to the second key insight. 2. The serious consequences of poor blood circulation. I'll never forget the moment Charles broke down in my office. He was 72, a proud man who always presented himself well, the kind of person who took care of everyone around him, his family, neighbors, and even the stray cat that wandered into his yard. But on that day, he seemed diminished, not physically but emotionally. He leaned forward, lowered his voice, and said, "Doc, I don't feel like a man anymore." His blood test results were normal, and his heart sounded healthy, but I knew what was wrong. His body wasn't delivering blood to the areas that mattered most, not just to his extremities but also to the parts of his body linked to his confidence, intimacy, and connection with his wife. Poor circulation wasn't just affecting his health, it was quietly eroding his sense of self. When your blood flow slows down, it's like the lights in your house gradually dimming, room by room. First, your energy wanes, then your sleep quality deteriorates, and finally, your ability to respond to intimacy is affected. And it's not just a physical issue. It gets into your head. You start to doubt yourself and feel distant from your partner, even when they're right beside you. This gradual breakdown can't be fixed with a pill or wished away over time. It requires understanding what's actually happening inside your body. Medically speaking, it boils down to your endothelial function, the lining of your blood vessels. When it's damaged, nitric oxide production decreases. Without nitric oxide, your blood vessels can't dilate, and blood can't flow freely. And which areas suffer first? The smallest vessels, those involved in arousal, memory, body warmth, and vitality. What begins as mild fatigue or a reduced sexual response can escalate into much more serious problems, such as early signs of vascular disease, an increased risk of stroke, or even erectile dysfunction that becomes unresponsive to medication. Unfortunately, most men don't realize these risks until they start impacting their lives in unexpected ways. But hey race, what gives me hope? Every day, your body has the innate ability to heal. Blood vessels can regain their flexibility, and nitric oxide levels can be naturally restored. You don't have to rely on synthetic pills with side effects that may be scarier than the symptoms themselves. In fact, there's a powerful yet simple way to start repairing this system using something you've likely used your whole life but never in this context. When I started sharing this approach with my older patients, many of them came back saying, "I didn't think I'd ever feel this good again." So now let's explore how baking soda when used properly can support this internal healing process and why it's much more than just a home remedy. 3. Baking soda, a simple overlooked solution. I recall Harold, a soft-spoken 67-year-old retired math teacher who came to me after trying everything: supplements, prescription medications, and even embarrassing devices he ordered from late-night TV commercials. "Nothing works," he said, shaking his head. "I feel like I'm chasing after something that doesn't exist." He was exhausted, not just physically but emotionally. Then I asked him a question that caught him off guard. "Do you have baking soda in your kitchen?" He looked puzzled. "You mean for baking cookies?" I smiled and replied, "Yes, but it's good for much more than that." Most people think of baking soda as something to deodorize the fridge or add to pancake batter, but few understand its potential benefits for the human body, especially for men struggling with poor circulation and its hidden effects on energy, confidence, and relationships. Baking soda, or sodium bicarbonate, isn't a miracle cure. It's a simple compound that, when used correctly, can significantly improve blood flow and oxygen delivery, which becomes increasingly important as we age. Hey race, why it's so effective. As we grow older, our bodies tend to become more acidic due to factors like diet, stress, and declining kidney function. This acid buildup can constrict blood vessels and reduce oxygen availability, 2 things you definitely want to avoid if you're already dealing with circulation problems. Taking a small amount of baking soda dissolved in water at the right time helps neutralize this excess acidity. It gently balances the body's pH level, allowing blood to flow more freely. Improved circulation often translates to increased strength, warmth, and responsiveness, even in areas you thought were beyond repair. I've seen men like Harold start using it under my guidance and notice small but meaningful changes: more energy in the morning, less stiffness, and a rekindling of interest where there was once apathy. Of course, it's not a panacea, and it can't replace healthy lifestyle habits. But for many, it's the starting point of a real transformation. Once the body receives proper support, it begins to heal, and in some cases, the results exceed expectations. However, I must be transparent. What works wonders when used correctly can be harmful if rushed, guessed at, or misused. That's where things get tricky and potentially dangerous. So, before you reach for the baking soda box and start mixing, there are crucial things you need to know. Let me guide you through the safe ways to use baking soda and what to avoid, so you don't inadvertently make things worse while trying to get better. For the dangers of incorrect usage, I'll be upfront with you. I've seen both the positive and negative sides of using baking soda. I've witnessed it help men reclaim their vitality and confidence. But I've also seen it backfire when used carelessly. Take Dennis, for example. He was 70 years old, active, and still played golf twice a week. He read online that baking soda could improve blood flow and thought, why not give it a try? So, he started taking a teaspoon of baking soda every morning and evening, assuming that more would lead to faster results. Within a week, he was bloated, his blood pressure spiked, and he ended up in the hospital with heart palpitations and confusion. His kidneys, already weakened by years of undetected stress, couldn't handle the excessive intake. Baking soda isn't inherently dangerous, but it becomes risky when people treat it as a quick fix without understanding its mechanisms. It's not like taking a vitamin. It's a powerful compound that affects your body's internal chemistry, particularly your pH levels, fluid balance, and sodium intake. For older adults, especially those on blood pressure medications or with kidney sensitivities, this balance is delicate. The human body is like a finely tuned instrument. At this age, too much sodium, even from a natural source like baking soda, can disrupt your heart rhythm, cause swelling, or drive your blood pressure to dangerous levels. I've had to explain this to numerous well-intentioned patients who just wanted to feel alive again but didn't realize the consequences of their uninformed attempts. The good news is that these risks are entirely avoidable if you use baking soda correctly. Correct usage isn't just about reducing the amount. It involves proper timing, adequate hydration, understanding your medications, and closely monitoring your body's reactions. It means asking the right questions, being patient for results, and working with your body rather than against it. I always tell my patients, just because something is natural doesn't mean it's safe in any quantity. Water is natural, but drinking too much too quickly can still be harmful. Baking soda can promote genuine healing, but only when used with care, respect, and preferably under professional guidance. If you're still with me, I know you're not looking for a shortcut. You're seeking a solution that works, something that helps you feel like yourself again without jeopardizing your health. So, let me show you the right way to use it. In the next part, I'll walk you through the exact method I use with my patients, including the optimal timing, correct dosage, and a key tip that can make all the difference. 5. How to use baking soda safely. When I discuss baking soda with my patients, their first question is almost always the same. Okay, doc, but how do I actually use it? It's the right question to ask because, as we've seen, the difference between helping and harming your body lies in the method of use. For most generally healthy adults over 60, the safest starting point is to dissolve just a quarter teaspoon of baking soda in a full glass of water and consume it on an empty stomach, ideally first thing in the morning. Avoid taking it after meals, before bed, or multiple times a day. Once a day is sufficient. This may seem like a small amount, but trust me, when it comes to maintaining your body's internal balance, less is often more. I remember one of my patients, Ray, who was 74 and struggled with afternoon energy slumps and circulation problems that made even a short walk a chore. We started him on this simple regimen: a quarter teaspoon of baking soda in water each morning, taken on an empty stomach. Within 3 weeks, he told me, "Doc, I'm not sure what's happening, but I feel more alert, steadier, and my hands aren't freezing anymore." Here is something most people overlook: hydration. Baking soda works best when your body is well hydrated. This means drinking water throughout the day, not just when you're thirsty. When your blood is adequately hydrated, circulation improves, oxygen is transported more efficiently, and your organs, including those related to intimacy, function better. So, don't focus solely on the baking soda. Think of it as part of a broader approach to self-care. If you're taking medications, especially for high blood pressure, heart conditions, or kidney problems, Always consult your doctor first. This isn't about fear. It's about respecting your body, which has endured decades of life and deserves careful consideration. You wouldn't drive a classic car without checking the engine first, right? Treat your health with the same level of caution. Most men don't need a miracle, they just need a small glimmer of hope. One positive change that reassures them that they're not past their prime, not broken, and still have vitality within. This simple daily habit can be the beginning of that transformation. If all of this sounds promising, stay with me a bit longer. In the final part, I'll share the story of a 76-year-old man who used this exact method, along with a small addition that took his results to a whole new level. You'll definitely want to hear what happened next. Conclusion. There's a man named Frank whom I often think about. He was 76, widowed, and a man of few words unless he had something significant to say. He came to see me after hearing about baking soda from a mutual friend. He wasn't expecting a miracle. He simply wanted to feel more like himself again, more alive, more connected, and perhaps even open his heart to new relationships. We started him on the same routine I've shared with you. A small dose of baking soda in the morning, consistent hydration, and paying attention to his body's signals. But he added one crucial element that made all the difference. Consistency. He didn't just take the mixture once and forget about it. He respected the process and gave his body time to respond. Within a few weeks, the changes weren't dramatic but steady. His hands were warmer, his sleep improved, and he became more engaged in conversations. Then one day, with a subtle smile, he said, "I never thought I'd feel this kind of closeness again, but I do." What I've shared with you may seem simple, but don't underestimate its power. We've discussed how poor circulation silently affects millions of men over 60, sapping their energy, weakening their intimacy, and making them feel that their best days are behind them. We've explored how baking soda, when used correctly, can help restore balance to the body, enhance blood flow, and bring life back to areas that have felt dormant for far too long. And we've made it clear that this isn't about quick fixes. It's about providing your body with the care, patience, and respect it needs to heal. If you felt tired, disconnected, or even a bit hopeless about what you've been losing, I want you to know it's never too late. The capacity for healing is still within you. Your body hasn't given up. It's simply waiting for you to listen. So, perhaps this small change is the starting point you've been looking for. One glass of water, one daily habit, one quiet decision to take your health, energy, and confidence seriously, not someday, but today. Because you're far from done, you still matter, and there's a whole lot more life waiting for you to embrace.